Hey guys! Alright, so this is the last video on how to make this bottled face makeup. This is going to show the application and the material list will be in the description box. So beginning where we left off, I'm going to cut the excess cap plastic off. I want it to be a couple of centimeters away to blend out, but not as long as it is right now. So I'm going to cut it and I'm going to cut out a little wedge area around the lip as well, because otherwise the cap plastic would go over my lips, which wouldn't be a very successful application. So I'm going to cut this little wedge shape out so that the cap plastic goes over the top and bottom, so the cap plastic doesn't go over the top and bottom lip, and so that it just fits a bit better in that area. Okay, next I'm going to put a layer of Pros-Aide adhesive on the back. I'm using a cotton tip because I find it hard to wash out the brushes. You could also use Telesis adhesive for this. And with Pros-Aide, you just want to make sure that it completely dries before you push it down, so wait for it to dry clear. And once it's ready, you position it up into your face. You make sure it's in the right place, the right angle, and then you push down into the center, and then spread out the adhesive towards the edges to try to minimize any air bubbles trapped underneath the cap plastic. And just make sure to smooth out all the cap plastic around it. Just kind of try and get like a really nice seal with, no bumps or bubbles or issues. Okay, pro tip, do not smile or laugh while applying this, because otherwise you'll get these lines around your mouth. You have to wait until the adhesive has been completely dry and until you've dissolved out all the cap plastic before you start talking and laughing and smiling, or else you'll get these lines. Learn from my mistakes. So dissolving the cap plastic takes a little bit of practice so that you can dissolve it nicely. It's too little of it, if you don't dissolve it enough, it's an obvious edge, and if you dissolve it too much, then the silicone edge shows through more. So we're focusing mostly on the very outer edge of the cap plastic, and the 99% isopropyl alcohol can be quite fumy. It can kind of sting around your eyes and nostrils, so keep your eyes closed. If it's hard to breathe, take breathing breaks and kind of fan the air away from your face. That helps a lot. And be cautious, like if you're doing this to somebody else, about them being able to breathe in their eyes and nose and everything as well. Because isopropyl alcohol can be quite strong, can be quite irritating. It could be fine, depending on the person. Just keep an eye on them. So I'm using the 184 Delium Tool SFX brush, which is this really fluffy watercolor brush. So I'm going to start color matching silicone to my face with this. I'm using the Rose Adjuster from the Skin Illustrated Flush Tones palette. I'm going to really heavily dilute this with some isopropyl alcohol, so it's just a light wash of pink to get some life and blood back into that kind of silicone color. So I'm just going to lightly dab it around onto the silicone. Next I'm going to use a cut off 1-inch chip brush. Now splatter across the skin tone color with this. So to splatter, you mix your color, you dab the brush, and you pull the bristles back with your index finger and release. So the more alcohol you have on this brush, the bigger the droplets are going to be. And the less alcohol you have on the brush, the smaller the droplets are going to be. And obviously you can dilute the color to have it as strong or as light as you want. And that's how you create like a natural looking flush tone, by building out colors and layers and washes. Rather than just one opaque color, because that's not really, that looks more like a mask perhaps. So first of all, I'm going over with a lighter color. So this is heavily diluted rice paper. I'm going to get a little bit of the natural number 1, a little bit of the Olive Adjuster. And a little bit of Lau number 2, just to add a little bit of darker color in there. Just kind of trying to work it out. But it's good to kind of keep it light, keep it translucent, keep the color application light and translucent, and have it kind of like a wash and just build it up slowly. I think that helps a lot more than trying to just go for it. And you can kind of see as you do it what's working, what's not working. What am I going to do? Alright, so now I'm going to close my eyes, take a breath in, hold my breath, and kind of start splattering this color across. It's a lot easier if you're doing it to someone else and you can see what you're doing, but in a pinch you can totally self-apply and then just clean up all the mess that you make afterwards. So you see me fanning away the smelly isopropyl alcohol fumes when I need a breathing break. And don't open your eyes too soon if you think it's on your eyes. So I'm going to go over it again with like a little bit of a lighter colour to try and lighten it because the silicon's a little bit too dark for my skin. So I'm going to heavily dilute the rice paper and go over with a thin wash of that. The lighter colours can, if you put it on too wet, too strongly, it can have like really big white blobs which don't quite sit that well, but then you can go back over it again with other colours to try and, have an array of colours that kind of blend in and look more realistic and natural. Once you've done your colouring and you're pretty happy, I'm going to go over the inside of the wound and remove all of the excess Skin Illustrator. I didn't mean to put it inside the wound, but it's going to happen. So wet your cotton tip with isopropyl alcohol and just wipe over the surface. Because it's the silicone paint, it's completely cured. You'll just get back to the colour that you were at before putting down the Skin Illustrator palette. So that's pretty easy. That's, something that wouldn't happen if you had painted it with Skin Illustrator, because then you'd be wiping it away at this point. Next, with the Delium Tools 128 brush, I'll add in a little bit of a darker colour to help deepen the look of the cheek wound. And so for this, I will use my Skin Illustrator palette. And so to create this shadow colour, I'm going to mix together some of the Ultra Blue, some of the Bruise Tone, and the darkest shade of brown from the Flush Tones palette. And I'm going to apply this colour just in the deepest part of the wound to make it look a little bit more receded and a bit deeper than it is currently. Okay, so the next step is using an anti-shine. So this is the hardest thing about using encapsulated silicone pieces for me, is the cap plastic can be quite shiny, and that can be a dead giveaway to where the prosthetic stops. So first of all, I'm going to put Ben Nye Final Seal down as a seal to seal all the colouring and everything we've done. Then I'm going to put down, and Ben Nye's sealer is also like a mattifying sealer, which helps. And then I'm going to go over it with Scotty's anti-shine product, which is one of the better ones that you can get. And then to finish it off, I'm also going to go over it with and also I'm going to add a powder to minimize the shine when I'm finished, which is one of the Ben Nye's finishing powders. So I get it pretty matte, but then once it's mattified, I can kind of see the coloration coming through. It doesn't quite look as matched as it was before when it had that bit of shine. So I'm going to go back over and tweak the color a little bit. So I noticed first of all that the pink kind of stops on my cheek, because my cheeks are a bit flushed. So at least on this they were. So I'm going to add like a little bit more of the pink in. I'm going to use the same colour that I used at the beginning, which is the Rose Adjuster, heavily diluted with the same watercolour brush. Just pat that colour on and try and build it up. One of the things that I learned at IMATS recently, which was really helpful, is that a lighting companion told me that 80% of makeup is knowing how to problem solve, which makes me feel better, because I feel like every time I'm doing something, there's always something that comes up which is not as expected, and I'm always like, oh, how do I do this? And so a lot of that is experience, like knowing how you've solved it in the past, knowing what products you can and can't use to fix the problems that you're having. Just kind of MacGyvering the situation, really, working out what you can do to fix it. So then I felt like I put the pink a little bit too close to the wound. I'm going to pop out that edge again with a little bit of a white highlight, which is just the white from the FX palette, just around the edge with like a thin paintbrush that I have. And then just to try and, settle down some of the pink that I put in and make it look more underneath the skin, I am going to go over the pink again with a light flesh tone colour. I think it was just the rice paper diluted again to make the flush look more natural and try to match the colour a little bit better again. And then once I've built up this colour, I have to remove the excess from inside the wound again. And then I'm going to re-add that deeper part, that deeper shadow colour into the deepest part of the cheek, as it was wiped away when I cleaned out the wound after the second Skin Illustrator application. But the colour's already mixed in the lid, so it's not super hard to just re-add that quickly. Okay, so to help the blood sit on the silicone, because what blood can do is it can bead up on the silicone, I'm going to add a little bit of dishwashing liquid to it, but only to the part that I'm going to put on the outside of my face, not the part that's going to be in or around my mouth, because you don't want dishwashing liquid in your mouth. So especially if my silicone, especially silicone inside the wound, if it's so glossy and smooth, the blood's going to bead up really easily. So I'm going to use a little bit of dishwashing liquid, just a couple of drops mixed into the blood I'm going to put inside the wound, and then use the undiluted, non-dishwashing liquid blood around my mouth and chin. So I'm going to paint it on pretty freely, as I'm going to wipe away most of it. I just kind of want mostly these traces left behind. So I'm going to kind of paint on a little blood, let it dry, and then kind of start wiping it away. Just like the real injury would have had, a little blood kind of dried up and then wiped away at the hospital when the photo was taken. So I find the easiest way to kind of remove the blood once you put it on is to get water. Like, water is the best thing, with like a tissue or a cotton tip, and just use that to kind of break down a little of the blood and just try and get those little traces left behind of it. So once I'm satisfied, I'm going to put in some of the fresh blood for a little bit more like detailing. So most importantly with this, I'm going to put like one wet drip going down on an angle in the front of my chin, just like in the reference photo. Now I'm just cleaning out some of the blood so it doesn't look like there's like an overload of blood on my face, just enough to kind of match the reference and be suggestive, but I want a sculpt and a paint job and a blending to kind of speak for itself. And then lastly, if you want like the inside of the wound to get like even glossier and shinier and grosser, you can also add a bit of KY jelly into it, just to really amp up that juicy, shiny feel. Okay, and this is a finished look. Now to remove the piece, it's fairly easy. You just have to find one of the edges, get a little cotton tip with some remover and work your way up. I like using Palace's Super Solve or Easy Off. A lot of people use Isopropyl Mirror State. Yeah, just as long as it will dissolve away the adhesive that you're using. Use your favorite remover and just kind of work your way under the glue and under the edges, and slowly and gently peeling it back. And just check you haven't got any excess cat plastic stuck to your face. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you found it enjoyable, and if you want to follow me on any of the social media stuff, I'll link it all in the description box. Alright, bye for now.